they do in Texas, please. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. I love it. Love game, intuition, play the cards of spades to start. And after he's been...
Food prices are expected to rise by up to 50% following the recent increase in fuel cost.
Jatuh, habis mesti naik lah. Barang-barang kalau import mesti naik sikit lah.
Makanan naik, ayam hidup pun naik.
Increased cash assistance under the Budi Diesel programs, Budi Individu and Budi Agri Commodity by 100 ringgit, bringing the total to 300 ringgit.
These systems provide targeted fuel subsidies for the land and water public transport sectors.
We see it every day. Fuel prices rising, food becoming more expensive, and daily expenses increasing. But the real question is, has the rising cost of living affected you? Are you worried about your financial future? According to the Department of Statistics Malaysia, inflation in Malaysia continues to be influenced by transport and food prices, both closely linked to fuel costs. This is not just about petrol, this is about the cost of living crisis.
For many years, Malaysia has relied on fuel subsidy to keep the price affordable. However, this subsidy comes at a high cost. Report from the Ministry of Finance, Malaysia, shows that the fuel subsidy can cost billions annually, placing pressure on the government spending. Fuel is the key input in almost every sector, especially transportation and logistics. When fuel prices rise, businesses face higher operating costs. According to the report highlighted by the Bank Negara Malaysia, fuel price adjustment can lead into cost push inflation, where higher costs are passed on to consumers. This means higher prices for goods, services, and daily necessities.
For the public, rising fuel prices are not just about transportation. They affect food prices, delivery costs, and overall living expenses. This creates a serious issue of income inequality and welfare burden.
Good afternoon, Dr. Mavis Long. So, first of all, we really appreciate your willingness to join this interview and share your knowledge. First question. So, for the first question is from an economic perspective, do fuel subsidies improve welfare or do they create a market distortions?
Okay, alright. For these fuel subsidies, for short term, actually will create the welfare, especially to those lower income group and also middle income group. It's a short-term welfare. But however, if from the economic perspective or standpoint, in long run, it can be create the market distortion. Because in long run, when this subsidies is implement, so a lot of diversions of the fund will go to the subsidies. So we reduce the fund to those productive sectors. So in long run, this can create the market distortion, and at the same time, because of the subsidy, this will encourage the over-consumption on the fuel also. I see. And this, we will foresee that if over-consumption in long run with the subsidies, also this can create this, we call the this shortage of the fuel supply, because it's not equilibrium. So we will say that in short run, yes, the fuel subsidies actually will promote this, not promote, actually will have this welfare, promote the welfare to the low income group, but not for the long run. Unless government have a strategy like, okay, the subsidies is for the special group, like targeted subsidies, then there will be enough.
The second question. So, do higher fuel price encourage more efficient consumption or do they mainly burden consumers?
Okay, higher fuel prices.
Yeah.
Okay, higher fuel prices, if for the lower incomers or those middle incomers, we will say that this is a burden to us. right? Because the higher, those are fuel higher price actually will affect like transportation costs, will affect also our living costs, right? Everything become expensive. Okay, but in long run, they will be different. In long run, because these are higher price, actually will probably will encourage people, okay, less traveling because they want to save the fuel, that less some consumptions of the fuels, and also some company because they want to save the cost of this high fuel price, they might shift to those green technology, for example, or cost-saving technology. And also, I will see that in long run, if this is a high fuel price that did not, the price of the fuel is not reducing, so people might aim for those public transportation, or they might go for this EV car, for example, electronic vehicles. So in long run, it might be more efficient.
Move to the third question. It is about also about subsidy, which is how do high subsidy expenditures affects the government's ability to fund other public services?
Okay. So when government implement these subsidies on those fields, actually, like just now I say that actually will create this one we call fiscal trade-off. Means that government spend a lot of money on subsidies, then will reduce the fund to support other sectors. For example, we have other very important sectors, for example, education, healthcare, logistics, those are manufacturing sectors. So for the economic growth, so those funds will be reduced. And because of high expenditure or high subsidies on those field.
For the fourth question is, to what extent can rising fuel prices be considered a key driver of inflation in Malaysia?
Okay, for this question, I will say that even though we know that high fuel price is one of the factors that contribute to the only factors that contribute to the inflation, because inflation not only caused by this high fuel, but also by other factors like exchange rate, for example, domestic demand conditions, for example, how is the conditions of the commodity prices. Those are the factors also will affect the inflation. So in fact, the high fuel is not the only factors will cause the inflation. So I would say that high fuel is not the dominant factors that contribute to the inflation.
So we move to the next question, which is how the rising fuel price affects income inequality and the welfare of lower income households.
Actually, definitely will affect those people, especially those lower income and the middle income will be affected, because the high fuels will bring the effect, direct effect and indirect effect. Direct effects like, okay, we have to buy with a higher price of the goods because of the transportation costs, because of other factors. And indirect effect is like, those business, like some of the sectors, agriculture sectors, transportation sector, they will pass this cost to the consumer. So in long run, this will also create the income inequality, which is the middle classes and the lower income groups. They have to bear more burdens on this spending. So that's why I say that unless the government, if the government implement the subsidies, fuel subsidies to all the people regardless they are T20 or M20 or P40, so that will be great problems, because like those T20 for them is the subsidies doesn't work for them. Doesn't play a lot of impact on it, but it's actually affected those B40 and M20 and So I would say that if in long run, if the government can implement like targeted subsidies to those the group that need it, there will be.
One last question, which is, what are more sustainable policy alternative to fuel subsidies in addressing the cost of living crisis?
Okay, so I would say that now currently government actually is doing a good job. Government actually try to reduce our burden by providing the subsidies, and but in long run we do see the problems, like if you keep on giving the subsidies, then will divert some of the funds to only provide the subsidies, but we ignore those sectors that can be developed our countries. So I would say that currently the government has to focus on those targeted group. Yeah, subsidy is still okay to provide to them because this can reduce their burden. Okay, helping them.
Based on the insights shared by our expert, Dr. Marvis Yong, rising food prices are one of the key factors contributing to increasing cost of living in Malaysia. As food costs increase, transportation expenses also rise, which will affect the prices of goods and services across various sectors. The impact is especially significant for lower and middle-income households, as they face greater difficulty managing daily expenses while wages remain relatively unchanged. This situation highlights the challenge of maintaining a reasonable standard of living in an increasingly expensive economic environment. Our expert also emphasized that addressing this issue requires effective policy intervention and long-term solutions. Measures such as targeted subsidies, responsible economic planning, and support for vulnerable groups are important to reduce the burden on the public and ensure sustainable economic growth. In conclusion, the issue of rising food prices is not only an economic concern but also a social challenge that affects the well-being of many Malaysians. Through greater awareness, informed policy making, and collective effort, it is possible to create a more balanced and sustainable future for all.
Bagaimana kenaikan harga barang menjejaskan pendapatan harian kita selepas tolak dengan kos? Jauh beza lah dengan kenaikan harga kereta tandang besar. Sebab macam dulu walaupun kereta kita ada subsidi, betul lah beli minyak, tapi tetap dipandang sebab kos lain, kos pembacaan harian. Memang macam yang itu harga Grab yang kita pakai sekarang lah, kalau pakai internet macam C Melon. Agak-agak tadi, agak-agak masih kapal. Nilai agak boleh sama. Jadi bila terbente, saya nak kena ikat. So dia akan tekan orang. Walaupun kita akan orang ada subsidi, tapi dengan kami sama orang lain semua, dia akan infeksikan. Dia akan infeksikan dari segi kos pemindah.
Have you changed your spending habit due to rising fuel prices?
Yes, I've been careful with my spending by cutting down on unnecessary trips and more focusing on essentials. That's all.
Have higher food prices changed how often or how far you travel?
As a car user, yes. Higher fuel prices have affected my daily use of car. But now, I only limit my drive to important destinations and avoid unnecessary trips.
Adakah kenaikan harga minyak ini menjejaskan perjalanan harian anda atau menjejaskan pilihan pengangkutan anda?
Bagi pendapat saya, ya, memang akan menjejaskan pengangkutan untuk orang alik ke pekerja. Jadi, saya elok-eloknya uji mata.
Has the rising cost affected you?
Yes.
Ada?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Are you worried about your financial future?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
To wrap it all up, the crisis of rising fuel prices and the cost of living in Malaysia is a delicate balancing cost. Our interview shows that while blanket fuel subsidies offer quick relief for the B40 and M40 groups, they simply aren't sustainable. In the long run, they distort the market and drain vital funds away from healthcare and education. Yes, high prices cause immediate inflationary pain and force everyday consumer to cut back, but they also serve as necessary wake-up calls, pushing us toward green technology and public transport. The real solution isn't cheap fuel forever. Malaysia needs a structural shift towards targeted subsidy paired with real national wage growth. This is how we build long-term economic resilience.